Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. If you love and support the work that we do, head to www.sexedwithdb.com and buy some of our hot new merch. Follow us on Instagram at sexedwithdbpodcast. And if you want to advertise with us, shoot us an email at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. This is a very special episode featuring Dave Merheje and Steve Way, two amazing comedians who are co-stars of the Emmy and Golden Globe nominated Hulu series Ramy. Dave is originally from Canada and has a comedy special on Netflix as part of a series called Comedians of the World called The Beautifully Manic. His other special, Good Friend, Bad Grammar, can be viewed on Amazon Prime. Steve is a 29-year-old substitute teacher by day and stand-up comedian by night. He was born with muscular dystrophy as an advocate for disability awareness. He also gives motivational speeches around the country. I can't wait for y'all to hear this one with Dave and Steve. I bet you baked all the bread and binged all the TV shows during quarantine. But have you created an exact copy of your genitals? Yeah, I didn't think so. Meet Clone-A-Willy. Clone-A-Willy and Clone-A-Pussy are DIY molding kits that allow anyone to make an exact replica of a penis or vulva at home into a high-quality sex toy or memento. Check them out at www.cloneawilly.com and use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase. Follow them on Instagram at Clone-A-Willy Kit. Want to get your birth control with free delivery? Well, now you can with Pandia Health. Pandia Health makes our lives easier by bringing you birth control wherever you have internet and a mailbox. If you have a prescription, you can move it to their pharmacy and get your birth control delivered. If you don't have one, you can have their expert birth control doctors write you one. Find out more at pandiahealth.com. That's PANDIA health.com and use code SEXEDFREE to get a free telemedicine appointment for the first 50 people who sign up. Follow them on Instagram at Pandia Health. Offer only valid in Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, and Wyoming. Let's talk about why Uberlube is one of my absolute favorite lubes. It provides a long-lasting performance that lets skin feel skin. It has simple, body, and condom-friendly ingredients. It dissipates when no longer needed, so there's no sticky residue. And it's recommended by leading doctors. They're also partnering with us to give a few lucky listeners free lube for a year. Enter the secret code word SLIPPERY into the Google form on our Instagram linktree. And use promo code SEXEDDB for 10% off your purchase with free shipping at www.uberlube.com. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Emojibator. Emojibator believes in humor and education to promote a society that celebrates pleasure. Their fun and affordable collection of vibrators is inspired by the sexiest of emojis. That means eggplants, chili peppers, bananas, and pickles. Oh my! They even have a line of adorable animal toys like a kitty cat, chickie, and whale that do a whole bunch of naughty things. Find all of their body-safe toys for pleasure at emojibator.com. And use code SEXEDWITHDB for 25% off your purchase. Hello, Dave and Steve. Welcome to the podcast. How's it going?
It's good.
I'm good. You good, Steve?
I'm great, man.
I'd like to hear that.
Let's start by actually you both telling me what you both do.
I am an actor, a comedian, a motivational speaker, and a high school substitute teacher.
Awesome.
And I am Dave Merheje, comedian and an actor. Yeah.
Short and
sweet.
And
Canadian as well. Canadian. Born in Canada.
Canadians are always so incredibly proud, and it makes me very jealous because as an American, I am the opposite of proud of my country at the moment. I very much appreciate chatting with Canadians. So very, very glad that you're here. Very glad that both of you are here. Where are you both from, and what are your backgrounds?
I'm from New Jersey, and I'm just white. I'm like part Italian and part British.
Cool.
So just a white colonizer.
Sick.
Yeah.
I am not what. Well, I'm Lebanese, but I wasn't born in Lebanon. But I was born in Windsor, Ontario, which is on the border. You probably don't know where that is. If you do, I salute you. But it's on the border of Detroit, so it's a border town. So we're kind of Americanized,
So you're
I
basically
guess.
white.
Yeah.
You're basically white.
No, Steve, no, you're not in this
Steve, you're
time. I'll tell you that.
bullying. What is
Yeah. There you
happening?
go, Steve. 15 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'm white, but not around now. You know what I mean?
Were
I
your
am.
parents born in Lebanon, or were they born here? Or in
No, they were
Canada?
born there. They were
Okay.
born in Lebanon and came to Windsor separately. You know what I mean? And then they met in Windsor.
Got
So
it.
he picked her up in Windsor. You know what I mean? He put the moves on in Windsor.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, my dad, he was born in Afghanistan, and he moved to Israel when he was like 13, and then to America when he was like 25. And we're Afghani Jews, not very many of us, very few. And he and my mom met at a nightclub in Manhattan, and apparently, like, yeah, apparently my mom danced with my uncle first, so it could have been a very different story. But here I am. Okay, so I feel super, super lucky to have you both on the podcast today. I just binged hard the first two seasons of Ramy. Absolutely loved it. Seriously, truly one of my favorite shows. For those who are listening who haven't seen it, it is essentially about it's a comedy about an Egyptian Muslim American family living in New Jersey, and it explores the themes of relationships, spirituality, the self, and identity. And it was somehow unlike anything I've seen, and yet it was like strangely familiar. I'm sure a lot of people have had that experience. As a Jew, like I mentioned, like I learned a lot about Muslim culture. I feel like I laughed, I cried. Some parts were very cringy, which was intentional, I'm sure, and others were incredibly warm and powerful. And I loved you two on the show, and I feel like you made such a big part of the show. And I'm curious if you can talk about your characters and how you both got involved with Ramy.
I mean, my character is basically me as a person.
Yeah.
Just a
Playing
huge
yourself.
asshole. I'm a huge douchebag. Just not respecting Ramy's religion at all. Just who I
In
am.
real life too.
Yeah. But like you said, I'm playing myself.
Okay.
Ramy and I have known each other since we were about 10 years old. So we've known each other for almost 20 years now. When we started high school, we both took TV production. Our high school was one of few, really in the entire state of New Jersey, that has an entire TV studio. So for more than half our lives, we've had access to like the best equipment that 14-year-olds could ask to film on. And then we just started getting into comedy, and Ramy got his show, and he wanted me to be involved and to play his best friend. It was natural. And I think the great thing about us on screen is that whenever you see him and I together, about at least half of what we say together is all improv. That's just how well we play each other on screen, and in front of a camera. Yeah, my character is pretty much just who I am.
Got it. Awesome. And that's really cool that you had that access to film and like TV equipment and teachers who were able to kind of like really get your creative side out at such a young age. I feel like that's super formative in terms of how who you are now.
Yeah, we took TV production our freshman and sophomore years, and then during our junior year, we petitioned our Board of Education for a third level because they only gave two. And our senior year, they gave us an independent study for film.
Wow.
And actually, our senior year, that teacher was supposed to retire. And he stayed there an extra year because he wanted to see us out.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
Don't
that's
you
awesome.
love just like good teachers like that? Like you can just
Yeah.
remember like your favorite high school teachers who like really like made you who you are, I feel like.
Yeah, so shout out to Mr. Weber.
Mr. Weber, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Good dude. Awesome. How about you, Dave?
The character, I guess there's portions of me in that character. I'm not married, obviously. I'm not a doctor. There's like I get the anxieties that the character has, and like I guess the way I would react to things in real life are they're similar there. Like very panicky, I worry. You know what I mean? And I'm Christian Catholic as well. So, but I grew up around a lot of Muslims and like friends of mine. So I was always like, I never got really into the religion. Like they would tell me they're going to pray, but I never asked questions. Like I didn't. But being on the show, I've learned a lot myself. So that was dope too. Like, and I found like an interest in it and asked questions and just and it was great. I didn't know a lot of the things, because I didn't ask questions. They would go, "We're going to pray at the mosque." I'm like, "Cool, man."
You do you. Have a good
You do
one.
you, yeah. And then the character, obviously, he doesn't smoke, drink, and stuff like that. But I do. I've dabbled. You know what I mean? Over time,
Sure.
you know, I party. You know what I'm saying? This guy doesn't party at all. So,
Old
I
enough
don't think
to
he
party.
dates white. He can't date because he's married. But I do like white women. You know what I mean? I know he's rambled about not digging them, but I do in my life like white women. And I've known Ramy for like 10 years. I met him at the Arab Comedy Festival in New York. Like when he was, I think he was 19. He might have been doing sketch, right, Steve? He was doing sketch back then. And he did sketch, I believe, at the Arab Festival. I don't really remember this conversation 100%, but he was saying that he was going to do comedy, or he was doing comedy. And I was like, yo, I want to act in the future. That's what I want to do, stand up and then act. And then 2015, I moved to LA. I was moving and I saw a poster. He promoted a show, and then I hit him up and he's like, "You want to do it?" And then we just kind of got closer. Like I would stay at his place before I settled in there. And then and then we just got closer over time. And Steve I met at acting class. And then he made fun of me, I think, the first 4 minutes.
Tight bond from the
Type
get-go.
on, dude. And then from there, we're here. So
That's awesome. I'm sure there was like a sense of camaraderie on set, and just like it seems like everyone is like close and knows each other pretty well, which I'm sure lends itself to the really great like scenes that y'all got. So that's amazing.
yeah.
I feel like Ramy does a super fantastic job delving into really important sex ed concepts, which is why I wanted to have you both on the show. And I know that, like, on its face, it might not seem like a sex ed kind of like PSA or sex ed related show, but there's a lot of topics that, like, I as a sex educator noticed and was like, wow, like, if young people and old people alike are watching this show, like, this is super informative for so many things. And some of those things I feel like are hooking up, friendship, gender norms, expectations of what like a good Muslim looks like, and on the flip side, like fetishizing Muslim women, what it's like to be in the closet for an older person who's like seemingly religious, or just, it's not their time and they're not comfortable coming out because of whatever norms exist. Forbidden love, sex and disability, and so much more. So I'm kind of curious, what are your favorite episodes, and like what was it like getting super deep into these topics for the screen?
I love the scene in the pilot when Ramy fills up the condom to make sure that there are no holes in it.
Yeah.
Totally valid fear.
Yep.
Totally real fear. I love that. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this more later, but I really like how Ramy allows me to portray sex issues within the disability community. He really kind of gives me free range when it comes to that. And I feel really special and honored that I'm able to kind of portray and tell those stories that you really just never see on TV today.
Totally. Yeah. And that must be, again, since you're so close and since you did a lot of improv, you must have had a lot of ability to share like exactly what you wanted to share and to, imbue that in the writing and really like make that a core part of the show, which is super awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, for me, every time, well, really, when it comes to me doing stuff like that on screen, Ramy will basically call me up while he's in the writer's room and be like, hey, Steve, we're going to do this, totally crazy idea. And basically, I'm just like, fuck, that scares me. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
And you acquiesce eventually.
Yep, yep. And, Ramy is very attentive to just how I do things personally. So he's very meticulous in like asking me questions when it comes to how I do stuff. So I think it's really why the show is just so well done. Because it's just so authentic to everybody.
Totally. Absolutely. How about you, Dave?
yeah, I think there's like a real thoughtfulness throughout. Like I know just from I don't know personally, but I could see sometimes him asking, whether it's about Steve or whether it's about the religion. There's like a real they're trying to get it as authentic and true to each character, but also the flaws. Like like naturally, I think sometimes in real life you try to hide these flaws, like from even your friends or people you love or just strangers. You give this idea of who you are, but this show shows those the negative side or the bad side or the rough side or the stuff you're going through, and it doesn't shy away from that. And that's what I loved about like comedy and it's like stand up itself. That's why like my favorite comedian is Richard Pryor, because it wasn't like he was never, he told you, I lit myself on fire, I did crack, like, you know what I mean? But then he showed you all this dark side of his personality and just made, and a lot of it was cringe, could have been, but you watched it and you're like, okay, this is authentic, this is real, this person is being upfront. And there was like even I would like the 9/11 episode was one of my favorite ones because I didn't,
It was a great episode.
It's just the perspective of his perspective of it in that day. Like I remember being in Windsor at my college, and we were at we went for lunch, me and my boy, and then we heard on the radio the towers went down. So that day is obviously very, I remember it. But like a small group of us Middle Eastern people were like in a circle, and we just kind of couldn't. No one spoke and separated from the circle. I don't even know where I went. Like I don't think anyone had a destination. They just kind of went into the hallways into just like this is insane. That one was one of my favorites, and then the mom one from the first season.
The lift episode?
It's just because like I didn't really think, Lebanese or Arab mothers are so giving and caring and around you. They're always asking you if you're fine, if you're fine. It kind of gets overshadowed asking them, and sometimes they don't even answer. Like my mom doesn't answer. I go, how are you today? And she will just answer, did you eat anything? It's just like they don't like to divulge any of their information or how they're feeling. So seeing that episode and like how they're lonely, then I start thinking, I'm like, damn man, is my mom like that too? Like, so it was like I think that one, those two I cried at. I'll be honest, I cried at both of those two.
Yeah. And back to the 9/11 one real quick. Like I was born on Long Island and was on Long Island like when 9/11 happened, and I just feel like as a New Yorker, especially like when we're kids, like everyone can remember like exactly where they were in that moment. I feel like it's similar to like our parents being like, oh yeah, I remember when JFK was shot, and like I can remember watching that on TV. Like that's just like a moment in history that like people will never forget in our lifetime. And yeah, also with the lift episode, I just thought it really struck a balance of like humor and like sadness and also like kind of like sexiness, because she was like gonna hook up with that guy and then he like fucked her over and you're like, no, what the fuck, like what a snake. And also she's just an incredible actress. I love Succession. She's so good on Succession. Just Fantastic. Awesome. So this question is for Steve. One of my favorite episodes was Atlantic City, and I'm sure you've gotten this question a lot because what a scene. In season 2, that famous scene where Ramy has to help you ejaculate because your character was in pain from not ejaculating for some time. Can you talk about the impetus behind this scene and what it was like to film it?
Well, the impetus to the scene is, you can't really see my hands, but, again, it's all real. But that's something that pretty much, many disabled guys in my situation go through. It's real, you know. You don't open up the valves and release the pressure. Guess what? It's gonna hurt, and not a lot of people really know that. Especially when it comes to like men with disabilities, or really of all genders. But again, Ramy called me up in the writers' room and was like, "Hey, Steve, what happens if you don't come after a while?" I was like, "Yeah, man, like it really fucking hurts." And you know what, dude? When you sit all day long and you can't move and things swell up, yeah, guess what? It hurts even more.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asked, "Have you ever thought about asking me to jerk you off?" And I was like, "You know what? There's probably a time where I thought about it for like a second and a half. And then I was like, no, fuck that." And he said, "Great, we're going to do that in the show." And I was like, man. All right, fine, let's do it.
Again with the acquiescing. And do
Yeah.
you think that he was kind of thinking in that way just because he wanted again to like show something that you were going through that hadn't been shown before? Or like where do you think that thought came for him?
Well, I think growing up, when we were just making videos or whatever, we were always like, oh man, you're definitely going to jerk me off one day. Like in high school, and then...
So it was like a long time plan.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time building.
Sure.
No pun intended on that. But, yeah, again, it's just... It's something that's real, and it's something that you don't see on TV at all. But Ramy also uses it as a way for his character to kind of separate the morality with the selfishness. Is he using it for himself?
Yeah.
Or is he using it to actually just help his friend? But is his friend manipulating him into doing it in the way that he wants it done?
Yeah, there are a lot of layers to this, obviously.
So many layers.
Yeah. And Dave, what did you think of this scene?
I loved it. Well, that was another favorite episode is, because we were all together a lot throughout, like, for the whole thing. We got to film together, right? So it's the four of us. I just enjoy those scenes because it's like a lot, like, we could riff, the improvising, and then just even the takes, like when we're not filming, it's just fun hanging out. That scene, what I remember, did he tell me before? I think he was like, there's a scene where I jerk off Steve.
I remember it was a couple of days before that. It was when we were in Brooklyn. We thought you were sick.
No, they thought I had shingles. So I had.
And,
oh no.
And I remember you were driving.
Yeah.
Or you were in the driver's seat of my van.
Yeah.
And Mo Almer was in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And you knew, and we were like, Mo, do you know what we're doing Friday? He's like, no. And I said, Robin's gonna jerk me off. And he's like, no fucking way, man. And when he thought that we were kidding.
Yeah, he thought we were fucking around.
You were like, no, this is happening. He's gonna do it.
Me and Mo got on set to do our scene after, right? And then you guys, they've been filming for majority of the night. It was in Yonkers, and I remember because I had supposed shingles, so I couldn't be near people. But when I got on set, I'm like, people were like, yeah, this is the scene where Ramy jerks off Steve. But it was so funny hearing like people say it without not work. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody was offended. It was just like it was normalized. They were like, yeah, he has to finish jerking him off, and we're gonna break to lunch type vibe. And that made me laugh like through the whole night of how like everyone was like geeked. They're like, this is a crazy scene. And it was, yeah. And then you watch it, and yeah, the whole episode again is like one of my favorites. But like that scene is just like, I didn't know this. I didn't know, so it was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that selfishly, you know what I mean? Because I could jerk off. I don't need anyone to jerk me off.
Sure.
But if you had to ask somebody to just the whole thing is a comedy brilliance, I think. I just think it's so dope.
And just to point out, in a previous episode, we had on a sex educator named Eva Sweeney, and I don't know if you've heard of her, Steve.
Yes.
Okay, have you worked with her before?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, she rocks, and she is someone with she's someone with cerebral palsy, and she is nonverbal, so she has an aide communicate for her. She has a laser pointer that she points at a letterboard when she like can communicate in the moment. But I had her on, and we talked about masturbation, we talked about dating, we talked about how someone who exists in a wheelchair who is nonverbal can go on a date with their aide and it not be super weird, can talk about boundaries, can talk about the kind of relationships, can talk about with their aide, hey, can you like set this magic wand vibrator like on my clit so I can go masturbate and you can give me privacy and come back when I'm done. Like all of those things are things that people with disabilities do not learn about in normal sex ed because, of course, sex ed is trash in America specifically. And people who don't have disabilities don't even learn about these things. So I think it's super important to highlight, especially in a comedy, right? Where like people are watching, they're not expecting to learn this kind of thing. And they can, at the end of the day, really gain something. And as you said, there are so many layers with like religion and morality. And obviously, like he does this to you in this scene, in my eyes, out of love and friendship. And like, okay, well, like I'm not super down to do this, but like you're in pain and like I want to help you. So like that's what's gonna happen. So I just found it really moving and powerful and really awesome.
It had a really good effect within the disability community. I talked to a lot of guys about it. I was able to like refer a couple guys to like some sex workers to help them out, and it's something like they never even thought about before. Mm-hmm. So it's like it just had this really great ripple effect throughout the community, where just like a lot of people were a lot more open to discussing it. And not just discussing it, but like finding real solutions. And finding solutions that they may have thought was like taboo and like frowned upon. But I think once I was able to talk to them about it and get them comfortable, they found to be really just valid solutions. Because I had to really drive into them when there's nothing wrong with getting a sex worker to help you out with that. Because they're gonna be uncomfortable with you. But it's literally their job.
I mean, they're providing a service. You're paying them, and also there's like other things to be said for like aides who do this, or physical therapists, or like people just like in the like disability service community. That should just be normalized as like part of the gig.
Right, and I was able to explain to them that like, this can be something that is medical. Because if you're, like I said, if you're sitting all day long and you're in physical pain and discomfort, I mean, there were nights where the pain would literally wake me up in the middle of the night. And I couldn't fall back to sleep because I felt like there was like a fucking needle going into me. And they'd be like, yeah, like I feel that too. And it's like, if it's getting that bad, like you shouldn't be ashamed to like fix that problem.
Completely. Yeah. Super awesome. Thanks for talking about that. So this question is for Dave. In an interview that I saw with you and Ramy. You and Mo, Ramy's other friend, played by Mo Amer, are described as the angel and the devil to Ramy. And kind of, you're saying he needs to masturbate less, he needs to pray more, he needs to get married so that he can put, himself on a better path. You already kind of talked about this, but how similar do you think you are to your character in that vein in real life? And like, what are some challenges with playing a like super nice guy who's like kind of on the straight and narrow?
I told Ramy this too. Is like it's funny because some of the stuff he does as a character, like that's who the energy is of me in real life. Like, so you're just kind of playing. I'm playing this person that's like, oh, if you didn't do those things you do in real life, this is how it could. This is how it could feel. Which is funny because like even the mess ups with the women and all that, and just the behaviors. I'm like, oh, I recognize that, and then so play like. I guess sometimes it's like, the energy is like I'm talking to myself. Like, yo, if you did this, if you
like you're writing in a diary, like reading it back.
Yeah, like watching them. So then when I'm like, I guess, and I'm not like a bad guy, like I'm a nice dude, you know what I'm saying? So, but the focus in faith, like I don't have that much of a focus in my faith in real life. You know what I mean? Like I'll pray, but there isn't that focus that this character has, and like almost like a rigid schedule. Like he has it. He's figured out these things. This is who I am. I'm a nice guy. I'm married. You shouldn't masturbate. You should do this. There's such an order to it that I don't have just quite yet in real life. I'm more erratic, and there's more of derailing and stuff. But that character doesn't. But again, the anxieties, I'm just adding that to it. That's the anxieties that I guess, I wouldn't hand sanitize. Now I probably would, but I mean before, if I went into a strip joint, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. But I have to say, in Atlantic City, there's this really funny like moment of you kind of like your character being drawn to the slots, right? And just like, man, I can't press this button. Like, can you please just press this button for me? Like, I can't do it. And like, there is a glimpse of like what would happen if like this character like went off the rails.
Yeah. And it's, I hate gambling in like real life.
Okay.
My uncle are gamblers and stuff like that. I never, so it isn't, but I have vices like that gambling vice where it's like you see it and then you're like, shit, and this is hard to get
back.
off.
Yeah,
I'm back in. So yeah, I don't know. It's.
What are some of those vices? Is that too personal?
No. It's like with me, it's like if I start drinking, I'm like I can go for 3 months, like not like like an alcoholic, but just partying wise, and then I could just stop sometimes, but it's like also with just the not being able to commit in relationships is a thing where like I'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna try to commit and then I just fall off. It's like the slot machine. I'm like, I'll hang out with a girl and then I'm derailed again. I'm like, damn it, like what I'm saying.
Interesting. Okay.
Like I'll talk to a friend like, yo, I think I like this girl. I'm gonna try to just be with one girl, and then it just. 3 days later, it falls apart.
Oh, wow,
My
3 days. It's pretty quick.
3, 4.
Pretty fast.
Pretty fast.
Thanks for your honesty, though. That's, that's hard. You got to be vulnerable with that stuff, and it's really tough. I think that it's really easy to see, like, those faults in ourselves, but also, especially now, like, during COVID, when shit has just been, like, so challenging and things are so challenging politically, and there's just so much going on that I think like giving ourselves a break when like things don't go necessarily right is like really important for like mental health and just for like maintaining confidence in like ourselves without like ripping ourselves apart. It can be really easy to do that when we see faults in ourselves.
Yes.
Wow, very deep. Okay, so comedy. Opposite of that. Well, maybe it's the same thing. I know you're both stand-up comedians outside of the show. Tell me about the themes that you both talk about in your comedy, and how did you both get into it and realize that you're good at it and it was something that you wanted to pursue?
I've been public speaking since I was like 9, 10 years old with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So I've always been good like in front of a room. Like in front of people. And when I was growing up, I always used I always use comedy to kind of like deal with my disability in a way. And I remember after we graduated high school, Ramy and our two friends, John and Kyle, that he had a stand comedy group with, they were doing a comedy show for charity in our hometown of Rutherford. And I remember Ramy was in my room and he was like, "Hey Steve, I want you to write a stand-up comedy set. But just do it." I was like, "Alright, fine." So I wrote it. I showed it to him and he read it. And he said, "Great, you're gonna do this at the show." So that's literally the first time I did stand-up comedy.
So we kind of pushed you to do it.
Yes, yes. And I basically talk about what it's like to have a disability, disability issues in America, but I try to find like the absurdity of it all, because I realize that if I get other people to relate to it, and if I can frame it in a way that everybody can understand, then not only will they get it and find it funny, but I'm like subvertly educating them
Yep.
on what it's like to be disabled and to have a disability. So it's super rewarding. You know, when people come up to me and say, "Hey Steve, that was really great. I also had no idea about this."
Yeah, you educate people.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How about you, Dave?
I think I started wanting to do it. I just wanted to, I guess, entertain at first when I was a kid. I really liked like talk shows like Leno, Letterman, and for some odd reason, Soul Train I would watch with my sister a lot, and it was like on at like midnight almost. But
Unexpected.
yeah, we just were like watching Soul Train a lot. Me and my sister, we watched TV together a lot, but we were fascinated with award shows as well. So I always wanted to entertain, but then my uncle, Uncle Brian, he married into the family. He showed us Richard Pryor and then Eddie Murphy and Andrew Dice Clay. I don't think we were supposed to watch. We were kind of like 13, 14. Maybe my sister was younger. I don't know what we were doing. And when I saw Richard Pryor perform, he was doing this bit about where a wino was talking to a heroin junkie, and they were having dialogue back with each other, back and forth. And then he kind of like the wino shoots up helps the heroin guy, and then it fades to black. And I just was like, whoa, I don't know what that was. That was wild. And then I was like, I want to do whatever that is. I think I told my mom. She was like, I don't know, I guess, dude.
She's like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
but I guess I'll support you.
I was on the ground watching TV, and I just remember now just looking up at her like, yo, it's like I found gold or something like that. And then I waited till I was like 19. I didn't know you were allowed to have somebody chaperone you to a club. I just thought you had to be like legal. So I waited till I was 19. Didn't know how to write jokes. I would write conversations down. Then I read a comedy book called The Comedy Bible, and I started to put together a set. I had my best friend at the time, Hugo, help me. He read it. The set bombed, obviously, and then it just, went on from there. But I think it was like early on, and I just was learning how to be funny, and then eventually I wanted to find my voice, and now anything. I don't hesitate to expose anything about my personal life or my vulnerabilities. Beginning because it was influenced so much by Richard Pryor's stand-up specials. I was like, that's dope, man. If you could, and it just feels better to me to not hide any of that stuff. So sometimes it might be too personal, but it's all good. But I enjoy it that way. So just really like anything that I could draw from personally in real life, I put it on stage if I can.
Yeah, and is that kind of like relationships, your family, like what kind of things do you get into?
A lot of it is about my family, my dad specifically, my mom's anxieties, my anxiety, relationships, you know what I mean, sex stories, and then just like I remember being robbed back in the day, so like I didn't by gunpoint pistol whipped. I just didn't know how to talk about. I was just like, I'm just gonna say it on stage, and then eventually it formed into a bit. But at first I was just like saying it and I didn't know. But then after I said it, it just kind of felt therapeutic. I was like, oh, that was great. I put it out there. People laughed at me getting robbed. That's great.
Gotta use it. Capitalize on that shit.
Yeah. So stuff like that, basically. And yeah, I don't shy away from an experience that happens. I'll bring it right to the stage if I can.
Awesome. We got 2 more questions. This one's for Steve. I know you've already kind of spoken about this, but I know you're an advocate for disability awareness, which is super incredible. As you mentioned, you give motivational speeches around the country. You're also the co-creator and star of the web series Uplifting Dystrophy. Can you talk about that a little bit and your experience with muscular dystrophy and what your activism looks like?
Yeah, Uplifting Dystrophy was a project with me, Ramy, and the 2 guys I mentioned before, Kyle and John. We basically wanted to show what it was like to have accessibility barriers. So every episode, John would try to take me to a party in New York, but something went wrong every time. And it really shows like the strain it could have on friendships, when someone's trying to do something for someone with a disability and it doesn't work out, and there's like a combination of ignorance with a lack of appreciation. But again, it's all real. Now I pretty much have all my focus into healthcare reform and Medicare for all, and just changing the archaic rules and restrictions that disabled people in America have on them when just trying to get healthcare, dealing with Social Security, and just trying to live their lives. Because a lot of times we can't even get the bare minimum care that we need to survive. I'm fighting for that right now. People in the disability community die all the time just because they can't get the adequate care. And there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for it. So, if I could use my growing and expanding platform to raise awareness for that and to change that for the better, then yeah, that's my job now.
Amazing. Super admirable. In May, I just graduated with my Master's of Public Health from Columbia, and just really share your sentiment about how shitty it is for disabled folks, for people in need in America when it comes to lack of health care and just lack of humanity, basically, that our government has for its citizens. So really, really share the urgency with you there and how important that is. Wow, we have 1 question left. This has been super awesome. Thank you both again so much for being here. This has been so fun. This last question goes back to Ramy, and I'm kind of wondering, what do you hope people gain from the show? And what are you looking forward to in Ramy Season 3? Because I saw Ramy tweet that Season 3 is coming back. I'm sure everyone is super stoked on that. I'm sure the people involved are so thrilled. So what are you looking forward to?
Well, I think what I want people to get, and I think Ramy shares this sentiment too, is that you should watch this show, not be a Muslim millennial male from New Jersey, and still relate to it. Mm-hmm. And even not be disabled and relate to it. Because I don't think you have to be any of those things to understand the themes and the feelings from it. In terms of Season 3, I have no idea. I'm scared shitless. I have no idea what Ramy's gonna make me do.
What he's gonna cook up for you?
I mean, Season 1, I tried to sleep with an underage girl. By the way, that never happened in real life.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but also very crazy episode.
Well, we'll get to that for the Steve Way solo episode.
That sounds good for next season.
But my lawyer advised me to always say that it never happened. That's me playing a fictional character in a fictional universe. It never happened. But yeah, so that happened. Season 2, Ramy jerked me off. So, like, I have no idea where we're going from there. I don't want to know. I'm scared, but I'm gonna have to do it anyway. Because one, I need the money, and two, I don't have a choice. So
Sure. Really, really uplifting ending there. Thank you so much, Steve. How about you, Dave?
I want to say when you guys are talking about the health thing, it's like I was watching the news here in Canada, and then it's just crazy how the two different countries, like the prime minister was just on the news telling people to take a flu shot. Just kept saying, he goes, just please take a flu shot if the second wave comes. And then you click to America and you're like, what is, it's just, if you put them side by side, you're like, what is happening?
It's terrifying.
And then this guy is like, please everyone take a flu shot.
Straight terrifying.
Like we're in high school kids. But also I just want to say Steve's just does just so funny in both seasons, man. Just like you just don't, like, if you go back and listen, there's like so many lines, dude, that even like if you miss, you just go, it's just so, but also like just the comedic chops of knowing. Do you know what I mean? Like I get, you know what I'm talking about, Steve? Like in the dialogue, like he'll find the funny in it, which I think it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? And it just looks so natural. I just wanted to say that before. Yeah. And then I think I agree with Steve on that, is like, you don't have to be, you could just be just human, I guess. You know, these are just emotions that I think everyone goes through, and themes. Again, I'm not Muslim, and I can relate to, just even that family is not specifically my family, but there are parts of it, just, I guess, the feeling of it and the energy where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they did that to my sister. They let me like leave the house without even questioning where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been going to sell cocaine and no one would have found out. Well, they would have found out, but I guess season 3, more words, Arabic words that I'm gonna have to try to memorize for 47 hours.
Wait, what? Can you break that down? What does that mean?
Just some of the words, some of the Arabic words I have like a hard time with.
Oh, you're gonna have
like
to speak
stuff
in
I'm not speaking Arabic, but just some of the stuff like the kids kept like just some of the I almost said it wrong, but I stopped myself so I don't get.
I would be talking to Dave's roommate, and I'd be like, "Oh, how's Dave doing?" And he'd be like, "Oh, he's been in the bathroom for 5 hours." Trying to learn how to pronounce Arabic words.
Interesting place to try to practice your Arabic.
Because I'm the least. I guess I can understand everything, but I probably, out of all the cast, I'm the least could like pronounce some of the words.
Yeah.
Well versed, but I'm the most like religious character.
Right.
So just it's just my luck. I'm like, how did this happen?
So you got to study up.
Yeah, so I have to study up. So, Steve's getting jerked off. I'm in the bathroom learning words.
Pretty complete opposite sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you both so much for being on again. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Want to win a year's worth of free lube? Yeah, I'll bet you do. All you have to do is enter the secret code word into the Uberlube Google form on our Instagram linktree, and bam, you're entered to win that sweet year's worth of lube. I'll bet you want to know what that code word is right about now, don't you? Okay, fine, I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone. The secret code word is slippery. Enter that word into the Google form on our Instagram linktree, and you'll be entered to win. Good luck! If you're someone in a long-distance relationship, quarantine can be especially difficult without your boo. What if you could have an exact replica of your partner's penis or vulva to use as a sex toy? While the year 2020 certifiably blows, at least we have Clone-A-Willy to make our LDR dreams come true. Intrigued? Learn more at www.cloneawilly.com and use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Pandia Health. the only doctor-led birth control delivery company. Here are some fun facts about Pandia Health. Most birth control is free with insurance, or for $15 per pack without. Your birth control comes with free delivery and free goodies, and you can get an online doctor visit if you need it, which is perfect during COVID-19. Go to pandiahealth.com, that's Pandia health.com, and use code SEXEDFREE to get a free telemedicine appointment for the first 50 people who sign up. Offer only valid in Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, and Wyoming. Our creator, co-producer, sound engineer, and host is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our co-producer and communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our main logo and banner graphic were created by Andrea Forgacs. Our social media intern is Leslie Lopez. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Our ad music is by my stepdad, Bill Gant. Thank you so much to our featured guests, partners, and our listeners. If you're interested in advertising with us, email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Insta @sexedwithdbpodcast. Tune in next time.